Let me just again thank our witnesses for being here and for my colleagues for being here this afternoon to discuss the First Amendment, one of the great freedoms the American people enjoy. And we're doing so at a time where in the not-too-distant past we have seen the federal government, specifically the IRS, target people for exercising their First Amendment free speech political rights. We do so at a time where over the past academic year, there have been several troubling incidents at colleges across the country, and today we hear firsthand from our witnesses who are at the forefront of the debate over free speech on America's campuses. There has been a trend of intolerance against those voicing unpopular ideas or speech deemed disagreeable or offensive by some students and faculty at colleges and universities. This is occurring across the ideological spectrum and even at law schools, where students should be taught to engage in a civil way with each other's viewpoints. This past March at Lewis and Clark Law School and at the City University New York Law School, protests disrupted speakers who were invited to speak. At Lewis and Clark, a member of the school administration was present, reportedly the dean for diversity, but they stood by and did nothing, allowing a heckler's veto to silence an invited speaker, instead of encourage students to debate ideas that they disagreed with. In another incident, administrators at a community college forced an 8-year Navy veteran to stop distributing, now get this, pocket-sized U.S. constitutions. Professor Raskin, we wouldn't want students reading the Constitution, would we? Because he hadn't received a permit to distribute a pre-approved material. So the very document that allows us to enjoy this great nation wasn't deemed pre-approved material. This individual took an oath to defend this document and the ideals it embodies, but he wasn't allowed to hand out free copies of the United States Constitution. Because this student stood up for the most basic rights, the school, thankfully, changed their unconstitutional policy. At our first hearing on this subject, we heard from civil rights experts, administrators, and speakers who had been shouted down, threatened, disinvited because of their beliefs. We even heard from a comedian, Mr. Krishnamurthy. I think he made a little joke about the length of the letters in your name. Today, our panel consists of witnesses who were not only shouted down, but physically assaulted in the case of Dr. Stanger, and ousted from their teaching job in the case of Dr. Weinstein. Let's be clear. College is a place for young minds to be intellectually stimulated and challenged with new ideas and ways of thinking. Unfortunately, at many institutions, students and faculty are forced into self-censorship out of fear of triggering, violating a safe space, committing a microaggression, or being targeted by a biased response team. At one university, when reporting bias, and I quote, "The most important indication of bias is your own feelings." Real objective standard there, Mr. Raskin, right? To borrow a phrase from facts don't care about your feelings, and as Justice Brandeis told us, the answer to bad speech is more speech. Restricting speech that does not conform to popular opinion imperils the politically weakest among us from speaking at all, which is exactly what the First Amendment is designed to prevent. When students go back to school in the fall, are these institutions going to be more open to civil debate? We certainly hope so, and that is the focus of our hearing today. And so again, thank you to our witnesses for appearing with us today, and I look forward to hearing your testimony in just a few minutes. But first we have the gentleman, the right fine gentleman with the long name, who is the ranking member who gets his opening statement, and then we'll get right to our witness.